There are three sources of data sets: public, private, and personal. Public data is open and free. You can search online and find it. Today, there's a lot of public data out there, and it's actually a little hard to find public data, but a lot is relative. What I mean by relative is that the vast majority of the data is actually not public. And therefore, two things happen. One, the data that you might want may actually not be there. You'll find a lot of data out there, but that isn't necessarily the data that you would want. Secondly, even though it may be out there, it may not be exactly the kind of data that you want or exactly the kind of format that you want, or it may be out there, but you will find it hard to locate it. In this module, one of the things we'll look at is what are some good ways of searching for and finding public data. The second kind of data is private data. This is data that is accessible to a few people. For example, you could find them inside an organization, but not outside. Or you could pay for them. They're not open, but anyone can access it as long as they're willing to pay for it. A third kind of data set, and this is a pretty interesting one and also an emerging field, is personal data. Think of it as data that lies within you or your devices. For example, all of your call logs, you have them. You can extract them, you can analyze them. Or your music listening history. That's a personal data stream. Your own ratings of these music tracks is a personal data set. Increasingly, people are looking towards their devices and their habits of logging to extract data from personal data sets. What we'll be going through are examples of how to locate data in each of these. A good starting point for public data is the Awesome Public Datasets catalog. You can go to Google, search for Awesome Public Datasets, and you'll find a link on GitHub which says Awesome Data, and that links you to this README file on Awesome Public Datasets. It has several categories: agriculture, biology, climate, energy, natural language, social sciences. And for each of these categories, let's take social sciences as a category, you have links to several databases or collections of data sets. For example, the Gdelt Global Events Database is a massive database of events that have been scraped from various news sources. And it's pretty much the largest and most comprehensive source of any kind of news and event data. And you can download about 2.5 terabytes of these just for the last year as raw data. Or if you're looking for data sets related to, let's say, finance, then Google Finance has an API. You can look at Oanda, which has currency and commodity data. You can look at Edgar, which has all the SEC filings, the financial reports for US companies. And this is just a list of some of the data sets. Some of these may in fact have links to other data sets from where you can download even more data. GIS is a pretty big and hot section. So for example, there's GADM, the Global Administrative Areas Database. This has data sets for every country. So if I go down to, let's take a quick look at the maps themselves. You have shape files for several countries. Let's take the let's take Ukraine, and within Ukraine, it has maps for each of the subdivisions. So that's effectively the equivalent of states. Within that, we can dive down to the next level, which is the sub-subdivision. And within that, if the data is available, go down to the third level and see information there. All of this can be downloaded from the data section, and you can download it by country. Let's say I pick Ukraine. I can get this either at level 0, which is the country level, or the state level, or the district level, and as a variety of different formats. A good starting point, if you're not sure what kind of data set you want to go for, is Awesome Public Datasets. Keep in mind that this is more for exploration than discovery. If you know exactly what you're looking for, then maybe a quick search on this page might get you something. But it's more for you to read through and find what's there yourself, rather than like a search engine. A second source for public data is Google Dataset Search. You can go to Google and search for Google Dataset Search. The result will take you to Google's dataset search engine. And this is like a search engine for datasets specifically. For example, let's say we want to search for the FIFA World Cup dataset. FIFA World Cup. There are a series of datasets highlighted here in the auto suggest, but let me, I should have just said FIFA and pressed enter. Now that gives me a whole series of FIFA datasets. About 100 plus datasets are found. I can sort by what has been updated, let's say in the last year. So we want something that's relatively recent. And I can restrict by formats, whether I can use this for commercial use or only non-commercial. And there are a series of subtopics within that we can look at. But so far we've selected only past year. And here's a complete player data set. There is an official data set, and this has information about all of the players. It has, well, whatever else. This has player ratings and so on. You can click on any one of these, open the data set, and either download it from that data source or from there go to other data sources. Google Dataset Search works based on individual sites exposing their data in a specific metadata format. And in this module, there is an optional video that will give you a better sense of how Google Dataset Search works. This is not necessarily the best way of finding data in the way that Google searches. On Google Search, you'll find pretty much anything that you're looking for by and large. But Google Dataset Search is still in its infancy. There is a good chance you may not find what you want. So if you don't find something on Google Dataset Search, do not assume that it's not out there. It simply means that the people who've created the index and the people that have put up the dataset outside haven't really connected with each other. Another popular source for public data is Kaggle. You can search for Kaggle datasets, and the very first link that you find, Kaggle datasets, will give you a list of several datasets that you could explore, and you could search within these as well. These are datasets that people have uploaded to Kaggle, either for competitions or to learn and explore with each other. It's a reasonably large dataset. So out here, for example, if I'm looking for data on, I don't know, let's say Harry Potter. Let's see what datasets it has. Yeah, there are several datasets, list of spells, the movies data set, an overall Harry Potter data set, fan fiction data set, scripts of individual movies, and so on. And for example, in the movies data set, it looks like we have details about the chapters, the characters, the dialogues, even more information about the movies, what places were used. So that's pretty interesting. List of all of the characters with their age, house, wand, blood status, and so on. That's another one that you could find here. Again, this is only a subset of public data that has been uploaded to Kaggle. So while you may find interesting stuff here, the fact that there is nothing here that relates to what you want does not mean that the data is not out there. It just means that it's not on Kaggle. Another source of public data is from governments. Many governments have put up websites like data.gov, data.gov.in, data.gov.uk, and these have data sets that are owned by and published by the government, often related to the government's functioning. A good way to find them is to go to Awesome Public Datasets and search within that for government, where you'll find datasets sites for provinces like Alberta in Canada, or cities like Antwerp in Belgium, or entire countries' data portals. So if, for example, we open the Brazil data portal, that's at dados.gov.br/dataset, and the site is in, well, something that's not English, but we can infer that it's got about 11,000 data sets in PDF, CSV, Excel, XML, zip XML, and a few other formats. This is a pretty authoritative data source. What I mean by that is, given that it's published by governments, it comes with the backing of the government. So you can assume a certain amount of official nature or officiality about the result, but that does not necessarily mean that the results are either right or of good quality. Several of these data sets are published on an as-is basis. So the data gathering process may still be flawed. The data collection process may still be flawed. A lot of columns may be empty, a lot of rows may be empty, but they are the official results and therefore can be used as a basis for a lot more confidence in your analysis than data sets from unofficial sources. Apart from these, if you're looking for people to help you find data or locate it, your best source is to join a community. In India, DataMeet is one such community of data enthusiasts who often look for and help each other find data sets. So you can search for DataMeet and that'll take you to datameet.org. On datameet.org, you'll find details of what DataMeet is, but the main thing is the mailing list, which is a Google group. And on this Google group, you'll find several people posting questions, like somebody's requesting Dehradun shapefiles, somebody's looking for carbon footprint information, somebody's looking for details about Delhi Metro, somebody is looking for the NFHS data set. And you can see that there are some conversations which are fairly long and detailed. So there are responses, but some, like where somebody's asked for the Jharkhand village boundary as per the 2011 census, where there are no responses. It's hit and miss, but the good part is there is a fairly large community, well over 3,000 people that can help you find the data set that you're looking for. Apart from public data sets, there are private data sets. And usually you'll find private data sets within the bounds of organizations. A corporate data set is something that an organization has and usually does not share outside of the organization. For example, the list of employees in an organization or the financial details of an organization, the product specifications for an organization, performance details, operations, the logs of each of the production batches that they've run. These are all examples of data that many organizations collect as part of their process, but because this information is either sensitive in that it involves details about other people or organizations and they cannot share it, or it involves information that gives them a potential advantage and therefore they want to keep it private. This kind of information is abundant within an organization that you may be working for. So it's largely a matter of knowing where there are data sets within the organization. You may be able to search, you may be able to ask, and then source the data accordingly. But this data, private corporate data, is perhaps among the most invested in data set. That is, people are spending more money on this than any other kind of data set. Another kind of data set is private in the sense that it's not free and open, but you can purchase it. There are several sources of paid data sets. For example, if you search on Google for paid data sets, you get sites like data.world. Google Cloud has data sets that you can install on the Google Cloud and use. Okay, Kaggle doesn't have paid data sets, but you can find paid data sets in the likes of Dun & Bradstreet, Hoover's. And if you search for by data set, then you'll find several others like Statista, which sells reports, Bright Data, where you can buy data sets, Datastock, Data and Sons, and so on. The thing about paid data sets is that it has a wider and usually more reliable collection than public data sets in some areas, like, for example, finance. So if you're in an area where people are selling paid data sets, you're best off going for those paid data sets. But if not, you may find a richer public and open data than paid data. A third source of data sets is personal data. And this is rather interesting because this is something that's unique to each person. Only that person has full access to that data. For example, a great source of personal data sets are mobile app data sets, stuff that's on your mobile app. For example, I'm going to take my phone and just go through each app in it and talk about what data I can extract from that. The first app that I have is Messages. From this, I can extract the list of people who send me messages, whether they send me messages in the morning or the evening. Are there certain words that are commonly used by certain people? Who often thanks me, who says please, who doesn't? Which are the junk messages? Are junk messages often sent at a specific time? These are examples of what I can do with data just by exporting data from my messages app. With WhatsApp, we can go to something that's slightly richer. We can look at who calls. Do we call people more often, or do they call? Who tends to miss the most calls? Whose calls do we often not pick up? When do people call? Are some early morning people? Are some late night people? How long do people talk? Who are the people that we have the most conversations with? Are there certain people that we call right after we call other people? Do we message people after we call them? Do people message us back after or do we message them back after they call us? All of these are examples of what we can extract from WhatsApp. Let's take the health app. For me, I'm tracking my audio headphone level exposure. So I know that over the last several months, I've stayed well below 80 decibels. And I can see on at what times of the day I listen to loud music versus quiet music. I can use the sleep tracking data, which tells me how many hours I sleep. So do I sleep more on weekends? Do I sleep less on weekends? The number of steps that it counts. This is something that I use to tell me, do I walk more during the morning, during the evening? Do I walk in do I take long strides? Do I have short strides? How does that vary based on how much sleep I had the previous day? Weight tracking is something that I've been using for several years now, and that can tell me do I put on weight in holiday seasons? Do I tend to lose weight at the beginning of the year after I've made a resolution? And all of this is from the health app. From the email app, I can look at when I get messages, what kinds of messages I get. Can I classify them into useful versus non-useful? Are there people who send me more messages with specific words? Can I automatically figure out who I tend to talk to more after at certain periods of time? Similarly, we can explore calendar entry data. So what are the meetings that we attend? What appointments are set up by whom? Who wastes our time the most? And so on. And all of this is just from the first 4 apps that I had on my phone. If you look at your social apps, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, you'll find that you can figure out not just your patterns of usage, but other people's patterns of usage as well. If you look at apps related to finance, for example, what are you buying on Swiggy? Do you have a preference towards certain kinds of foods? Who are you paying? On UPI apps, are you paying vendors more? Are you paying for smaller purchases more? Are there personal transactions that are more common? Or if you look at entertainment apps, what kind of music do you listen to? What do you rate highly? What do you rate poorly? If you have Goodreads installed, then what are your book ratings? Do you tend to rate fantasy more than crime? Do you tend to rate history more than business? All of these data sets are personal and come from just one source, exporting data from your mobile application. While mobile apps are a good representation of a source of personal data, this is not the only source of personal data, and any kind of personal logging can be used for this. Some people, for example, write down the number of hours of sleep they have, or write down, for example, the diet that they're following, how many calories they've had on a given day, whom they speak to, their feelings literally in a diary. All of these are sources where we log personal information. So put another way, anytime you enter some information somewhere, it could be on a piece of paper, it could be on a digital medium like your PC or your phone. These are instances of personal logging. Any action that gets captured is a potential source of personal data, and this can lead to some very interesting and very powerful analyses.